Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Today's topic is what to do when you're unhappy in your job or a relationship.
Absolutely. Yes. So, a lot of people find themselves unhappy in their job or the relationship or a relationship, whether it's feeling underappreciated or having fallen out of love or doing a job you hate or working with people that are annoying, problems with your boss.
We were talking about this earlier. It's how do we end up
Repeating the pattern.
continuing to either we're manifesting the same relationship,
Right.
or we think we found a different job, we found that different person, and ta-da, I've done it again, and I'm
Yes.
back in that same relationship or same
Right.
job all over again.
Right. And what's happening is the reason we keep repeating the same pattern. So the problem is that if you leave the job or the relationship, you will very likely find that you end up having the same feelings, experiencing the same problems in whatever your new circumstances or situation is. And now, actually, before we go any further, obviously, if you're in danger, get to safety. That's, that goes without saying. So take whatever steps you need to do to get yourself out of any dangerous situation. But if you're not in danger, whether you stay in the situation you are or whether you leave, so you go for another job or you leave the relationship, either way, only you will know what's best for you to do. But whether you do or you don't leave, the important thing is that you still change what's inside you. Otherwise, you just take it with you. So whether you stay or you leave, here's what's happening in the background. Your subconscious, you're right, settle in, grab some popcorn. I'm on a roll. So your subconscious is referring to whatever references it has from your childhood, and the main role of your subconscious is to keep you safe by keeping you the same because you're still alive. So to keep you in alignment with what has always been and with your tribe. And the way it does that is it controls your conscious mind through your body. And we think we're making conscious decisions. We think we're reasoning things out using logic. This would be a good idea. That's not such a good idea. I like this person because of that. I want that job because of that. That is the illusion. The truth is it's being controlled by the subconscious. So the subconscious I'll give an example. Let's say I grew up in a surrounding of conflict. Let's say there was lots of arguments and shouting and drama. Okay, so there's a lot of struggle and drama. Now, when I see a job that I think, job opportunity, and I think, okay, so there's something I could do, my subconscious, and let's say that job would be, I would be happy, I would feel fulfilled, I would feel appreciated, it would be peaceful and fulfilling, and so on. My subconscious would refer to the fact that being in a state of conflict and struggle is the norm. That's the safest place to be because that's where my tribe, that's how my tribe was, and that's how I have survived all these years.
Now, to be fair, safe doesn't mean actual safety.
Right. It just means stay. So to the subconscious, because the subconscious cannot use reason or logic, and it can't judge something as the way the conscious mind does, it's programmed to keep you safe by keeping you the same, whatever that same
is. Recognizing it as normal.
Right.
So there's a security in the normalness.
Right. So even violence could be considered by the subconscious to be safe simply because it's always been that way.
Right.
And it doesn't judge it as right or wrong or good or bad. It's just normal. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it needs to stay in order to survive.
Yeah.
So then let's say the job would be great. My subconscious refers to the evidence from my childhood that in order to survive, I
Right.
need to be in a state of conflict and on guard and, turmoil, stress, whatever's there.
Hmm.
It then prompts my brain to trigger my organs to produce chemicals that create feelings, emotions, and impulses. And those sensations are interpreted by my conscious mind and given meaning completely without realizing it. So I will look at that job and I'll start feeling doubt or anxiousness or fear, and my conscious mind will then interpret that and start looking for reasons for it. I'm not good enough, it's too hard, I don't have the qualifications, I'm too old, I'm too young, what would people say, it's too far away from where I live. The conscious mind will come up with reasons for these feelings.
Right.
But the feelings are not coming from the reasons. The feelings are coming from the subconscious. So, and that's
so the subconscious is always kind of it's leading ahead. It's leading the conscious mind.
Exactly. And then, of course, what happens is the vicious cycle, because then, as I think, oh, I'm not good enough, what will people say? I don't have the qualifications. I'm in that moment producing even more of those stress chemicals that are creating more doubt and anxiety. And before I know it, I've turned down that job that could have been the perfect job for me.
So we have the illusion that we think that we're making a conscious decision about a job, and really all we're doing is interpreting the feelings that are there.
That's right. And they're creating more of them.
And they're proceeding, so we're recognizing the situation. We're in the situation we see. We're either in the relationship or in the job situation, and the feelings are being created.
Right.
And then our conscious mind is interpreting, trying to put meaning to those feelings.
That's right. Without realizing it.
And then it feels like, well, I'm making the decision. I'm making a conscious decision.
Yeah. And perpetuating those chemicals, because every time you think something, whatever you're thinking about is creating matching chemicals. So
how do we get out of that?
I want to give another example, first of all, just so let's say I meet someone, and let's say in my childhood, I experienced betrayal or abandonment. Now I meet someone. Now the thing is that the conscious mind doesn't pick up a fraction of what the subconscious picks up. So the subconsciously, unconsciously, we are constantly picking up micro expressions, tone of voice, gestures, and so on that we're not consciously aware of, but that the subconscious is referencing to the database it has. So let's say I meet someone and my subconscious picks up mannerisms, tone of voice, gestures that match something from my childhood.
Could have been
and it could be anything.
Teacher, could have been a parent. Yeah.
Right. So it matches that and makes that connection. It then prompts a production of endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, which make me feel attracted to this person. And my conscious mind finds reasons for it. So my conscious mind starts going, oh, don't they have lovely eyes? I love his laugh. They're such a wonderful person. We've so much in common, and so on. And as I'm thinking that, again, I'm producing even more of those feel-good chemicals, which enforce that attraction.
Sure.
Now, somewhere down the line, by the time that's worn off, and I start to notice this person I'm repeating the same pattern, but this person's turned out just like the other relationships I had.
How did this happen again?
How did it happen again? And it's because when I was in that euphoric state, my prefrontal cortex wasn't working efficiently in that way. And I was filtering out anything that would distract me from this attraction or deter me from the attraction. Now you can say, so what's the answer?
The answer, but I think that in that example, it's like we've become deluded by those feelings. That we kind of get into the trance of those old feelings again.
Right.
And so again, the subconscious is leading.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's producing those feel-good chemicals, and now your conscious mind is following again,
Right.
and going, yep, this is the
And
perfect person,
producing
and it feels
more of those.
and it feels
Yeah.
logical.
Yeah.
So the conundrum is that it feels like we are consciously making, you know, the right choices, but we
Yes.
end up in the wrong relationship again, or
Right.
we end up in the wrong job again.
And in addition to that, once we realize we're in the wrong situation, we then get to reproduce the same
Mhm.
feelings and the same experiences. So betrayal, not being appreciated, whatever it is. So the solution, it's 2 stages.
Stage 1.
The first stage is to gain control over your emotional state, which means gain control over your chemical state. And the way in which
how
you do
does
that,
one go about doing that?
all right. So, I mean, first of all, the
Mhm.
reason why you want to do that is because while you are under the influence, so to speak, of these chemicals, you aren't able to use, you know, effective judgment. It affects your judgment. It affects
Mhm.
what you're attracted to and your
Mhm.
decisions and everything else. So ESC is the program we created that we recommend for learning to gain complete control over your emotional
ESC
state.
standing for emotional state conditioning.
Right. And it teaches you how to control your chemical state physiologically, which will affect your emotional state.
Yeah. And if you remember, you know, from the example earlier, that the emotions, those chemicals are being initiated by whatever references are there from your past.
And the chemicals come first. So that's really important to realize. You're not just feeling something, you know, out of the blue. The chemicals happen, and then you feel it, and then your conscious mind interprets it, and then it perpetuates that feeling.
The subconscious mind is about helping us have know how to have, or what reaction to have in each and every moment. So that's why those chemicals are proceeding.
That's why it's set up that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So the second stage, so the first stage is gaining control over your emotional state. And that means that you're able to calm those stress chemicals down and to see more clearly in the first instance. The second stage is to change the original references that are creating this pattern, that are supporting this program. So in the examples I used earlier, I could go back to my childhood. And so let's say I'm in a job where I'm not appreciated. I don't feel appreciated, and I feel this constant conflict. You know, there's always problems, and I'm constantly coming up against resistance from my boss or my coworkers, or certain ones. So I would go to my childhood memories, change the subconscious childhood memories to the opposite, positive, empowering. So I end up where instead of conflict in my childhood, it's peaceful, everybody gets on well, there's a lot of love, a lot of fun, and life is good, and I'm appreciated. Then now I'm back at my work. Either my attitude will change, my approach will change, the way I see things will change, which means I will either leave the job, I'll find a way to leave, or I'll notice another opportunity, and my judgment now is different. So I'll pick an opportunity that will be what I want, will end up giving me what I want. Or because my view has changed, my behavior has changed, the way I relate to everybody else, the boundaries I set are different, and the way in which I set them is different. Everything changes, and therefore I may find that actually this is a pretty good job. I enjoy it. Either way, I end up feeling what I want to feel. In the relationship example, let's say I constantly keep finding myself in relationships where the person cheats on me. I go back to my childhood. I find where that feeling is. So let's say it feels like betrayal. So I go back to my childhood and I find whatever happened as a child that I felt betrayal. And I change that, bearing in mind the subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. It doesn't use logic or reason, and can't judge something as unrealistic. So I go back and I change my childhood to perfect. So my subconscious believes the new references now. because it'll just believe whatever you give it. Now it's referring to the fact that I'm valuable, that I am worthy, that I am loved and safe and everything else. Now I come forward. In the first instance, my judgment has changed. So I'm now attracted to very different people, number one. And number two, I'm relating to the people in my life differently. So it's very possible that my existing relationship will change, or I will be attracted to a different kind of person. Either way, again, I'll end up with whatever the supporting evidence in my subconscious is proving to be true.
So the key is to be able to go back and change the references that are there.
Yeah.
And be able to start to work on changing your emotional state.
Yes.
Both of which are very possible. Now, obviously, we don't have enough time to talk about that in this video. We do have plenty of other videos that you can take a look at. You know,
and courses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we have a course starting tomorrow.
Yes.
An intensive course.
Live ESC.
On ESC, exactly. It's still possible to become a part of that.
Yes, as long as it's before tomorrow morning. Yeah.
So you can check that out. There's information we'll have information about that.
And we have a free introductory course as well, which we'll put the link to in the description of this video, that will take you through changing childhood memories. All right.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So 2 stages. First stage, gain control, learn, develop the ability, and it's just a skill. It's difficult to start with, just as riding a bicycle to begin with is difficult, or any other kind of skill. The more you do it, the more you stick to it, the more you practice, the easier it gets, and it becomes your default state. So gaining control of your emotional state, which means gaining control of your chemical state, the brain and body's chemical state. And the second part is changing the original references so that they prove whatever it is you want now. All right. Okay. And we will see you again next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye for now.